As Texas continues to battle the Biden administration, numerous Republican states have said, hey, we're going to chip in. We are going to support you in any way possible. Are we looking at a civil war? Let's get into it. Here we go.
This moment, it feels new, right? It feels like a new boiling point yet to be seen between Texas and the White House. What do you see this standoff ultimately leading to in your state?
Look, the border is at the boiling point, and I think you're seeing a movement across the nation now. Governor Abbott, supported by 25 other governors. This is a constitutional standoff. Texas has the right to repel an invasion if the Biden administration fails, which they have failed miserably. This is a constitutional right in the guarantee clause that Texas has the right to repel the invasion. Governor Abbott is exactly right. And I think the governors will prevail in this because you cannot nationalize 25 states' National Guards if we all band together and do this together.
And I wanted to get your take on that because some of your Democratic colleagues now want the feds to federalize the Texas National Guard, including Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro, who called on President Biden to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard. More on your response to that, but also if Biden thinks that what Texas is doing along the border is so egregious, then why don't you think he's taken that action yet?
Because Texas is standing strong against a failed presidency, a failed border policy. In fact, there is no border policy. There is an open border. The entire nation knows that the border is not secure. 8 million people cross it. Somebody has got to stop this, and Governor Abbott has stepped forward to do exactly that. Texas will lead in this matter. And frankly, the Democrats want a autonomous, all-powerful federal government. That is their stance in every issue. So the border is no different. We want states' rights. We want states to have the authority that they have under the U.S. Constitution and able to exercise it.
We've got Wyoming stepping in. Border brouhaha. Wyoming joins Texas in lone stand against Biden's boundary blues. And it just keeps on going. Reynolds backs Texas in border battle.
Court order and refusing to follow a U.S. Supreme Court order on a fight with the federal government. It centers on what you see there, razor wire. Texas has put up razor wire along sections with the border. Critics call it inhumane, and it snares and cuts migrants. The Supreme Court ruled that Border Patrol can take it down, but Texas Governor Greg Abbott says Texas will keep putting it up and ordered the National Guard to block federal agents from areas where it's been installed. Abbott says he's exercising the state's constitutional right to defend itself against what he calls an invasion. And Reynolds joined 25 Republican governors in backing Abbott, saying on X, when the federal government fails, Iowa states step in.
Cameron Seibert tracking this story for us this morning and how Oklahoma has taken a stance here.
Yeah, guys, this is the latest example of major tension between the federal government and our neighbors to the southern border in Texas. Of course, this has been playing out over months, and now Governor Abbott not standing down when it comes to the crisis there at the southern border. Just a few days ago, the Supreme Court announced a ruling which would make it so that patrol agents at the border cannot remove razor wire. But following that ruling, Texas Governor Greg Abbott doubling down, posting on social media, showing Texas state officials continuing to deploy that razor wire anyway. Governor Stitt taking a stance on social media saying, quote, Oklahoma stands with Texas. Other governors across the country have joined him. That includes Florida and Montana. Lawyers in Texas argue the wire was strategically positioned to secure the border and stem the flow of illegal immigration. But the White House argues the razor wire prohibits federal agents from carrying out their duties, and that under the Constitution, the federal government is responsible for border enforcement.
The federal government, the White House in Washington, D.C., these guys at the border. Border's mostly secure. Looks good from up here in D.C. It's all fine. So you've literally got half of the U.S. governors in the United States siding with Texas in the border dispute with Biden. Says the president is leaving the country vulnerable to illegal immigration. Not just illegal immigration, smuggling, bringing in drugs, human trafficking. I mean, the list just goes on, right? Wild scenario. Are we heading into civil war, though, is the question. Is this what this is all about? I've been hearing about that for multiple years now. And it's always kind of one of those things that's in the background. You're like, there's no way. Civil war, there's no way. And, somebody that I follow, Tim Pool, has been stating, that civil war is imminent. And he literally moved his entire operation, his crew, to way out in the Dingles, somewhere in West Virginia, I think it is. It's like, all right. So did he go? Where did he go from? Maybe some by Washington, D.C., somewhere close urban, and move to rural location. I mean, real rural, it sounds like. But there's multiple people that think that we are just this close away from, this is a powder keg going on down in Texas. It's one of the reasons I wanted to go down there. I kind of realized, all right, heading into the election, this is the biggest topic. I want to go see what's going on. There's a Freedom Truckers rally that's going to be happening down there in a few days. Be interesting to see how that goes. Some militias are sponsoring it. Freedom Truckers rally. Let's read the article. Texas Governor Greg Abbott received the support Thursday of all but one of the nation's Republican state governors in his feud with the Biden administration over border security. GOP governors from 25 states signed on to a joint statement in support of Abbott and the Lone Star State's constitutional right to self-defense. I 100% support this because letting in 302,000 known encounters at the southern border in December, that's the exact opposite of a closed border. That's the exact opposite of a secured border. And yet federal government, it's pretty much secure. It's fine. From here in D.C., all looks good. So we got this constitutional right to defense and this happened days after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Biden administration could remove razor wire installed by Texas along a 30-mile stretch of land near the U.S.-Mexico border in Eagle Pass. That was a temporary ruling. Keep that in mind. That was a temporary ruling. I think you'll get a ruling in favor of Texas. I think Texas is going to keep doing its thing because Abbott won't back down. Biden is like, what's the next flavor of ice cream that I'm going to get here? He doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't even know what he's saying half the time. I mean, that's elder abuse right there. What they're doing to that man is elder abuse. Go out there. Let's campaign. Let's campaign. Let's see how this goes. Have you be president and campaign to be the president again another 4 years because things are going so well right now. Vermont Governor Phil Scott, who says he voted for President Biden in 2020, was the only GOP holdout. What were you thinking there? Ugh, that's embarrassing. We stood in solidarity with our fellow Governor Greg Abbott in the state of Texas in utilizing every tool and strategy, including razor wire fences to secure the border. The statement released by the Republican Governors Associations read, "We do it in part because the Biden administration is refusing to enforce immigration laws already on the books and is illegally allowing mass parole across America of migrants who entered our country illegally." All right, now let's take a little detour on the parole thing. That is a huge issue. It is a way for the federal government to get people into the economy and working. Keep them busy, give them something to do. It's like a little child, right? You let them just do their own thing and they're going to be off into trouble and they become a teenager. They, juvenile court and all that kind of stuff. But if you keep them busy, get them into some sports, get them into after school activities. Just keep them off the streets, the mean streets of Bellevue, right? Now, you want to parole these folks so that they can basically pay for themselves. And then you've got years and years and years down the road, it's going to be their first immigration hearing, right? So by paroling them, that is a method to get people into working and be self-sufficient for like war situations, like Afghanistan, like Ukraine, when you're literally flying people out of evacuations. You bring them here, boom, you parole them. Here's your work visa. Go for it, Junior. We know you're going to do great in America, right? It's just this wild thing. But instead, we've paroled, I think last year, the federal government paroled over 1 million people. Yep, go for it. Yep, you too. You go for it. Just start working. Here's your work visa. go for it. Just keep going. It's all good. Don't know who you are, but hope that scooter thing works out. Because of the Biden administration has abdicated its constitutional compact duties to the states, Texas has every legal justification to protect the sovereignty of our states and our nation, the statement concludes. Abbott on Wednesday proclaimed the Texas right to defense supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. I mean, what he's pointing out to me is just wildly obvious. Because what's going on? I mean, yeah. And when the Biden administration says, we need to cut that. Why do you need to cut? You're not trying to help people out. You just want to make it easy for them to come in. And Abbott's doing the exact opposite. He's making it difficult for them to come in. And when I was down there last weekend, they weren't coming in. They're like, oh, geez, we're going to have to do a little en route here and go a little different area because, wow, Abbott's got this thing tied down. Then he does. And he vowed to continue to deploy the razor wire to repel illegal immigration, arguing that it's an effective deterrent against the illegal border crossings encouraged by Biden's open border policies. 100% agreed. And if you go down there, take a look around. I mean, you're not going to come to any other conclusion. The only conclusion you're going to come to is, why would the federal government want to cut the razor wire that Texas has set up? If you're honestly trying to protect the border, you're not going to cut that razor wire, with the exception of when somebody's tangled up in it. And there's plenty of examples of that, right? Big balls of wire. I've shown that in footage that I took because you got clothes. And yeah, people get stuck on it. And you cut the wire and you get the person out. Several of the Republican governors that signed the joint statement also have issued individual declarations of support for Texas, and some have pledged to support the state with resources to combat illegal migrant crossing. Kristi Noem of South Dakota is a perfect example of that. She's already, she let Texas use a couple of her helicopters and a bunch of other equipment. She's like, there you go, fight the good fight. We don't have the border, even though every state now is a border state, because you've got all these illegal immigrants coming through, right? And you put 8 or 10 million people through the country, they're going to end up everywhere. I was even saying that Detroit's going to get a handful. Detroit. How's that going to work? Detroit, Rock City, right? It's going to get rocked. It's not good. I want it to be different arrangement this time, she added. This is Kristi Noem. If we're going to enforce Texas law, and if I'm going to have the ability to use these soldiers in a way that's effective, that'll be absolutely fantastic. All right. She is a patriot. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine called the situation at the southern border untenable. Agreed. And the Biden administration's immigration policies a total failure. Again, agreed. In a tweet vowing to back Texas in its standoff with the feds, Ohio will continue to do our part to support Texas and support policies to secure our border, he said, noting that the Ohio National Guard has had a continuous presence on the border since October of 2020. And a lot of these National Guards from these individual states, they will rotate in to helping out at the board. I've seen numerous states that have done that. Oh yeah, we send our guys through. And some of that has to do with, being at these locations. If there's not a lot going on, got to rotate guys around, give them a little bit of something different to look at, right? But then, like in December, when you had 22,000 come through Eagle Pass, that's just wildly overwhelming. Overwhelming to the point where they closed the border crossing because they needed all those border agents, not for the legal people going across, not for the commerce of the individual cities on either side of Mexico and the U.S., but to handle the massive influx of illegals hitting the southern border. So think about that. You close down the regular economy of both the Mexico side city, might not care about that, but the U.S. side, Eagle Pass, for sure. Lukesville, for sure. You're shutting down those economies because you're giving border personnel to the wide open border. It's just mind-blowing that this is going on. It's like, how did we get here? Well, it's been a long, long road. And I think a lot of this has to do with it takes years for the word to get out for people to be making their plans in Central America, South America, China. I mean, you name it. Africa. People are coming from all over the world because they know it's go time. Hey, if I get there, I'm going to get the fast track into the United States. If President Biden won't defend us, states will have to defend themselves. Arkansas stands with Texas. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders tweeted, the Biden administration continues to refuse to secure the border. Virginia supports Abbott and Texas' constitutional right to defend itself. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin wrote on X, the Lone Star State and the Biden administration have been at loggerheads over immigration enforcement amid record levels of illegal border crossings that Abbott has said overwhelm towns along the U.S.-Mexican border. What's so interesting is that we've had 8 million, 10 million, who's counting at this point, come through the southern border. And you put like 33,000 into Chicago, you put 160,000 into New York City, and they just crumble. They're just, can't handle it. Can't handle it. Let's go. Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, literally being hospitalized with panic attacks. I mean, I don't want anybody to have a panic attack, but this is what you get. Chicago, that's what you get when you have a mayor that has no business being a mayor. You have no business having a mayor like that with leadership skills like that because he doesn't have any. Let's go, Brandon. Last month, the Justice Department threatened to sue Texas if it enforced a new law that allows state authorities to arrest, jail, prosecute, and deport migrants who enter the country illegally. Texas is taking it upon themselves to secure their own border, which is the United States border. I mean, that seems pretty basic to me. But then the Democrat side would be, you can't do that. The feds got to do their job. Right. 302,000 in the month of December is not doing your job. You're doing the wrong job. You're literally chaperoning people across the Rio Grande. Let us help you in. Here we go. We'll cut that wire for you. You betcha. We'll help you in. Need some coffee? Need some water? Literally. And Texas isn't doing that. Texas is saying, no, you're coming here illegally. This is not the legal way you do this. Go back. Go back. Department of Justice also sued the state over its construction of a floating barrier. Yep. Texas has bused over 95,000 migrants to sanctuary cities, including New York and Chicago, as part of an effort to get President Biden to reverse course on his open border policies. So, I mean, he literally hasn't sent that many to these sanctuary cities. I'm just waiting for Detroit. Man, that's going to be a powder keg. Whew. I mean, you sent a couple hundred of these poor folks, Venezuelans, Honduras, into Detroit. I know Detroit's gotten better. I know it's on the comeback, and I know it's diversifying, gotten away from cars, all that good stuff, and it's making a comeback, but still got some issues, right? Need a big box of tissues for all those issues. This is a crazy time. These are insane storylines coming out, and they're coming out so fast. They're just like boom, boom, boom. So today, I'm recording this for you on a Friday on January 26th. Today, the Biden administration has given the drop dead, hey, you need to let the federal National Guard, the federal Customs and Border Protection, you need to let them into the park. You need to let them take over. Texas is saying, no, we're not doing that. That's not what we're doing. You're going to have to go take your policy, take your ruling, and shove it, because we've got support of half of the other governors of the states in the United States are willing to double down and say, yeah, let Texas do its thing. We will support them. That is literally the definition of civil war. So where does it go from there? What is the next step from there? What is this showdown gonna look like? Well, you've got lawsuits, like you've got a lawsuit in Chicago going on right now. You've got angry citizens because all of a sudden now the border policy is impacting their lives, right? New York City got a situation where you had this tent that wasn't secured down. It had a big storm, got some rain, got some wind. We got to take 1,900 people, illegal immigrants, put them in your local gym. Sorry about that, kids, studying for your your college admission tests. Sorry about that. Sorry to the disruption of your lives, but we got these illegals that you guys are paying for. Meantime, could we just take over your school? And in Chicago, you've got where they are suing the city because the citizens don't want their local park turned into a migrant center. I don't really blame them. You're seeing this tide turn, and it's so interesting because now all of a sudden the reality of the open border is hitting all of these big blue Democrat cities that have been self-proclaimed, we're a sanctuary city, love our fellow human being, until we break the budget and until they're just doing crazy stuff. They're running around on scooters in New York City. That's a big topic out there. You've got criminal activity going on because when you bring in 8-10 million people, certain percentage of those are gonna be bad hombres. Like I've said before, you're gonna have 1-2 thousands that are up to no good. They're up to shenanigans. And that's what this is. So the level of shenanigans at the Shelby Park in Eagle Pass, Texas, is that going to elevate? I think it escalates before it winds down, because there's no real backing off of this. Texas isn't going to back off. And if Biden backs off, I think there's a greater probability of that, because he's literally got the federal power to do what he needs to do. But it would be such a bad look because everybody knows, hey, the border's wide open. Even all these blue Democrat cities, they get it because all these people are now in their town, taking up their resources, busting their budgets. Yeah, I don't have enough money to hire new police officers, but hey, let's put up that new tent. Let's put 4,000 or 5,000 migrants in there. That is literally what is going on right now on the forefront of heading into an election cycle. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Sparks are going to fly. Shenanigans guaranteed. So, all right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and hit the like button for this video. Thanks in advance. I'll catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.